I always have a heck of a time trying to keep this old lantern lit.
Well, that thing's been here since I got here. But you'll get it. You just got to hold your mouth right. It's old and cantankerous like me.
Well, it's a shame that pipe burst on that engine. I really want to make that trip to Wilmington tonight, you know.
Yeah.
I'm glad nobody got hurt.
Yeah, me too. You know, we ain't had anybody bad hurt around here in a long time, thank the Lord. We only had one real bad one back about 1850, I want to say. Of course, I'm sure you've heard about that one, though, hadn't you?
Yeah, I've heard stories, and of course I read the newspaper, but the report in the paper really didn't have enough details to figure out what went wrong exactly. What happened that night?
From what I've been told, it was down there at Hood's Creek, right before you get up to Farmer's Turnout, that Rattlesnake Gray. You know where we were last week when we put that big load of fertilizer out? That's where it happened.
Gotcha.
Right in there, right. Down near Maco.
Yeah.
Just, northeast corner of Brunswick.
Right.
About 8 or 10 miles out of Wilmington. It was Wilmington, Manchester back then. Yeah, I want to say the engineer's name was Wallace. And it was cold. It was on a January night, cold, dark, no moon. And it was a Friday, January 6th, memory serves, 1856. And it was just, like I said, it was just one of them cold nights, and the pumps got to acting the fool. So he uncoupled the engine and run it up the track a couple of miles to flush those engines out.
Yeah.
And as he was backing down to recouple, the brakeman was new. Train run in the back of them while they were sitting there. And I mean, you got all that steel moving. Ain't much a body could do. And the mail train got popped, and the mail agent, Sherwood, his name was, he knocked him on his ass. I think he broke a couple ribs. The engineer was all right, but the Charles Baldwin, he was the brakeman. He was new, out of position, green, just a stupid mistake. And he got caught between the cars and rolled over him, took his head right off his shoulders.
Well, Emery, what's this nonsense about Charles returning? I mean, you don't believe in all that superstition, right?
Well, they started seeing that light about a year after. And folks started talking about it. Charles coming back to look for his head. They never found his head. And I heard his people, his family and such, they walked those woods for nigh under a week. They didn't find so much as an earlobe. And that's how that got started, because they didn't find his head. But I have to tell you that Ivan Beecham, engineer, he's long gone now, but he told me he saw it. He said it looked just like a brakeman signaling for an oncoming train.
Well, that's the same bedtime story I've been hearing over and over again since I came to work on this line, you know. But I've been here long enough to figure out fact from fiction, and the odds of old Charles coming back without his head, you know, haunting the tracks of northeast Brunswick County with like a ghost or specter, you know, those odds are zero. I mean, I think the engineers are just seeing the lights of Wilmington and getting confused, or maybe they saw some swamp gas or something, but that's all it is, isn't it? That's all it is.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to disagree with you, Joe, because I've seen it.
must be Holly.
I am, sir.
I'm Rusty.
Nice to meet you,
Good
Rusty.
to meet you as well. So this is it, huh?
It is.
How long
Welcome
have you
to the
been
museum.
here? Thank you.
I have been here 7 years.
Have you really?
Yes, I have.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to talk to you.
I'm excited to have you talk to me.
Good. Excellent. Back here in your office?
Actually, I think we're going to go right out into the museum itself.
Super. I'll let you lead the
All
way.
right, sounds good.
Thank you. I grew up in North Carolina. I heard the story of the Maco Light as a teenager. Thousands of people have reported seeing it. Newspaper articles have been written about it. Books, national magazines. Heck, even scientists have gotten involved. But throughout the years, the stories, there are differences, little nuances, some of them big, some of them small. So we decided to cut through all the noise and come get the straight up facts.
I had heard talk of this light all over Wilmington. People we were around, people we ate lunch with. Working on this shift one morning, my friend and I decided that we would go down and attempt to find this light, because it was really hard to believe, the story was, and we wanted to see if we could verify it.
One night when Elwood and myself got off of work, I had heard of the Maco Light from my dentist, Dr. James H. Edwards, here in Raleigh. When I was younger, we decided we would go over and see if we could see that light. And we made our way over there.
So one morning, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we set out to find this light. We drove a few miles west of Wilmington to the location of the light. A place, if I'm not mistaken, was called Maco. So we pulled our car up next to the tracks, a few feet from the tracks, and got out.
We parked the car, got out. We were only there maybe 15 minutes. We looked down the tracks, and lo and behold, there was the light on the tracks.
And I looked up, and I saw a flash. That was when the light occurred. At that point, when we were getting back in the car, so we got back out. We went over to the tracks. And in fact, there was something I'd never seen before. There was a strange light approximately, I'd say 100 yards east of where we were standing. The light, the pigment in the light coloring was that of a lantern. I have to tell you that it was quite frightening because there were no lights. It was dark.
And like Elwood said earlier, it looked like a lantern. It was moving from right to left and up and down. And the light was so bright that you could see the reflection of the light where the trains had run, and the steel was bright. You could see the reflection in the railroad. So I said, Elwood, I think it's about time we get out of here. So it looked like it was getting a little closer to us. We got in his convertible. It got out of there, went back over to the terminal.
And the lantern rose, looked like come from the ground or somewhere thereabout. And it was moving around as if someone were using a lantern to find something because of the movement of the light. The light was moving, wobbling back and forth like a right and left swing, and turning around it. And in turning around, there were times when the light would glare back out of the railroad track, extremely bright then. And after a few minutes, the light appeared to be coming toward us.
At that time in the morning, nobody knew we were coming over there, and nobody would have been over there just to meet us, to show us that light shining. It looked like a lantern. It did not look like a flashlight. You would know a flashlight if you saw it. It looks like a lantern, and it looked like somebody was holding it and moving it from right to left. And sometimes it would go a little higher, but it looked like a lantern. That's what it looked like.
And at that point, we became alarmed enough that we decided we better get out of there. And as it was in fact coming toward us, and when it in the rail, you could tell it. I mean, it was clearer and clearer, I think, for the fact it was coming our way.
I've never been back there since then, but I wouldn't mind making a trip down there. They'd tell me it's not there anymore, so I don't know what good it would do to go down there, but say it's grown up and the tracks had been removed. I discussed it with lots of people. I told my wife about it, and all my family, my 2 children, they know about it. So.
But it was at that point that we decided we had better leave. And I can assure you that the light was in fact real.
Well, Holly, thank you for giving us the time today to sit down and talk to you. I'm from North Carolina, so I've heard the story of the Maco Light all my life. But the story about Maco Light, all that we ever heard was about the light. So we're anxious to talk to you about the actual story, how this happened, where the train was going, how the accident happened. And there's been a lot of stories written, a lot of newspaper articles written, and I'll be honest with you, some of them, the story's a little different from this story, a little nuances. Sometimes there's a big difference. So we thought we'd just cut through all that, come right to the Railroad Museum, which is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
And have an expert tell us exactly what happened. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to you, Holly, and let you tell us the story of the Maco Light.
Absolutely. Well, you start hearing this story in some press in around 1867. So that's the first time we see a published account of the ghost story of the Maco Light.
I didn't realize it was
that old.
Okay.
So 1867 is when it first comes out. A local writer, and then some other people jumped on board, a couple of presenters who, during that period of time, there was a lecture circuit. People would go around and tell stories of places like, if you're familiar with Wilmington's Thalian Hall or other opera houses around the country. Okay. And so that is when you start to hear the story. And the story goes that a conductor, Joe Baldwin, was on a train that was going westbound on the tracks towards, let's say, we'll call it Charlotte.
So it was headed out of Wilmington.
Out of Wilmington, westbound.
Gotcha.
And the train has a mechanical problem, is stopped on the tracks. Joe knows that he needs to warn an oncoming train coming from Wilmington, also a westbound train that should be, a good 45 minutes after them, but now that they're broken down, that train is going to meet up with them soon.
They're on the same track.
On the same track.
And he's dead.
He is dead.
Okay, gotcha.
Some versions of the story say that the caboose has become uncoupled, and it's just the caboose. Other versions of the story also indicate that the whole train is there.
Okay.
So Joe goes out to hang the lantern on the back of the train, but it's too late for the westbound Wilmington train to get stopped, and it collides with the train, throwing Joe from the caboose where he's hanging the lantern and decapitates Joe.
Okay.
So Joe is dead at the scene. They clear up the tracks, and then the phenomenon starts. People start to see a lantern, a disembodied held lantern, traveling up the tracks. It physically looks like someone is waving a lantern back and forth, but it is hanging in the middle of the air. And over the period of time that the Maco lantern was seen, let's call it from 1867 until about 1974, the thousands of people saw and witnessed this phenomenon. People would go out, kids in cars and hang out until from dusk to dawn, waiting for the phenomenon. And they would see that lantern going back and forth up the tracks. Some experiences said that it came all the way to them and past them. Other people said that they could see it up the tracks, then it would disappear and appear behind them. Other people said that they experienced the lantern go right beside them. And it has been said that 2 U.S. presidents saw it, but
Really?
we definitely know the truth behind some of this. Now, the truth is thousands of people did see it. In 1974, the tracks in the Maco area near Rattlesnake Creek and the trellis that where the Maco Light was seen were taken up.
Right.
After the merger of the railroads in the area that became CSX. Those tracks were all abandoned and eventually torn up.
Okay.
It is mostly said that no one has seen the light since. There are a couple of paranormal investigators that said that they have seen the lights post tracks.
Right.
But the majority of people have never seen it. They've tried to see it. It's the phenomenon seems to be gone.
Right.
So, a little about the truth. Are you ready to, scientists have tried to prove that it was not swamp gas, that it was a reflection from the highway, that it was a reflection of the moon on the tracks. So there have been a number of investigators who came out, scientists, to try to disprove this light. None of them could find a scientific validation for why the light behaves the way it did.
Wow.
So, one of the most interesting paranormal phenomenons.
Yeah.
Because absolutely tried to disprove it and could not.
So, I am a native North Carolinian.
Yes, sir.
And I grew up a couple hours from here. And we came down as high schoolers.
Did you?
Yeah, we did. I was probably 14, somewhere in there. Anyway, it was 100 years ago. But anyway, what I wanted to say was we put up a little promo about this episode a week or maybe a week ago. I've been out of town. I'm sorry, in and out, so I can't remember exactly when. But a lot of the question that I was going to ask you, you've really already answered, because you said the tracks were kind of pulled. That section was kind of taken up in the mid 70s.
Yes, mid 70s.
74.
Yes,
around
about
that?
74.
Okay.
That's when the project began.
Okay. So, and just so everybody knows, I'm not that old. We went down probably in 76. So we must have sat on some other section of the track. That's my guess. A lot of other people after did. It's just an excuse to go drink beer.
Or it could have been that they hadn't gotten to that portion of the track, because the project was probably about an 18 to 2 month or 2 year project.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
But when we put up our little promo, we started to get people saying, hey, my dad saw that. Or we even, we did an episode on Hickory Hall, and the gentleman that owns Hickory Halls says his daddy took him to go see it several times, and they saw it several times. But it seems like the bulk of the people saying they saw it or knew someone that saw it was in the 60s, and then it kind of trails off after that. So that lends, credibility to you saying that the tracks were pulled up in the mid 70s, and why we don't see stories after that,
That's correct.
All right.
Yes.
Fascinating.
So let's talk about the reality of this.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think it is?
So the conductor in the legend, we'll call it, or the ghost story, or whatever you want to refer to this, the paranormal experience, was identified as Joe Baldwin. We do know that in 1856, there was an accident on the Wilmington and Manchester, right there at Maco, at what was Rattlesnake Bridge, Rattlesnake Trellis.
Okay.
That the conductor was actually named Charles J. Baldwin. Charles Baldwin was the conductor of the westbound train, and he, so we do know he's a real person. We do know in the course of the accident, he did sustain what was a fatal head injury. He was not decapitated like the Joe of the story.
Okay.
Because I love the story where people refer to Joe and say, "Oh, it's just old Joe out there looking
Right.
for his head."
That's the story. Yeah, that's the one we all heard. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we have heard Joe was looking for his head, but the reality of the situation is Charles Joseph Baldwin, was not decapitated. He did receive a fatal head injury. He was brought back to what was then the hospital care in Wilmington, and he remained alive for approximately 3 days, after which he did pass away from the head injury.
Okay.
He was buried in St. James Churchyard, which is at the corner of 4th and Market. His body did remain there for a number of years. He was later exhumed and returned to his home city in New York.
Really?
Yes, Charles
interesting.
Baldwin was a native of New York, but I don't know the circumstances behind why it took so long for his family to move him.
Sure.
But that is indeed, he is no longer
Right.
at St. James Cemetery. Charles Joseph Baldwin was a fairly new, fairly young conductor, relatively inexperienced, and he unfortunately did break down. The job was for him to go out and set up not only a lantern on the back of the caboose to indicate that it was to stop, but also to pace out, based upon the conductor's manual, which we actually have a copy of in the museum, to pace out a certain amount of yards and place another lantern at that spot.
Well,
So
the
they
engineer was responsible for everything back then.
well, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, yes, but the conductor was responsible for the lights.
Gotcha.
So, the conductor is like the captain of the ship.
Okay.
The engineer would be his first in command.
Gotcha.
Engineer drives the train. Conductor is in charge of everything else on the train.
Gotcha.
Personnel, cargo, safety.
Gotcha.
So it was his job, per the manual, to go and pace out in what we would use now, maybe a flare. They would use a lantern at that time. So they would set a lantern at a specific amount of time that would allow a train to stop before reaching their train. Because of his failure to put out both of those lanterns, he was actually just remembered it based upon the investigation too late, was on the back of the caboose about to hang the lantern when it was too late.
Wow.
And was the train was hit, and he was not the only person injured. There were other injuries on the train, but his was the only fatal injury. He was thrown from the train and did have a head injury. So exactly the right location, Wilmington and Manchester, and which would travel into Wilmington via Eagle Island, which is across the way where the USS North Carolina is. Still tracks out there, by the way, today for the Wilmington and Manchester. And then, so it was his fault. It was Joe Baldwin's fault. In the original story of Joe Baldwin, it wasn't Joe's fault. But the truth of the accident, the inquiry, and the autopsy indicate to us that Joe was at fault for the accident. Or Charles Baldwin.
Charles Baldwin.
Yes.
Okay. And what were they hauling from Wilmington to, was it
Both
cotton or
cargo and
rice,
pass.
maybe?
Probably turpentine products.
Right.
Wilmington and the surrounding area was very known for its pine products, kerosene,
Naval stores. Yeah.
yes, naval stores, which was, at that time, in even today, North Carolina is the #1 exporter of pine tar products, all of those kind of products. Naval stores.
Yeah.
He probably had other cargo on board. He doesn't indicate that any passengers were on board, so it seems like it was a freight haul.
Great. Interesting. That's fascinating.
Yes.
I need to look at a map. That's kind of up in the area where Mount Misery Road goes. I don't know. I need to look at a map to see if that's
I think you are
in
close.
the general area.
Yeah,
Because
if you're heading up 74, I guess.
Right.
You're going to get to that. There's a gas station there now, Maco gas station would indicate to the, and you could still actually, went out trekking, trying to find where the tracks were pulled up.
right.
You could still see portion of the pylons for the trellis, the old trellis.
Wow.
And so that indicates to you where it is. Now, it is on private lands, so be careful.
Oh.
And I really think it's highly unlikely that you're going to see it anymore because, I strongly feel, because I do believe that there's things that we can't explain.
Well, that was going to be my
Okay, go
final
ahead.
question. I mean,
Yes.
you're giving us, this is the real scoop. This is the real deal. He really didn't lose his head.
No, but he died.
What about the light? What about the light?
Yes. So, first of all, one thing I didn't mention earlier is U.S. presidents.
Yes.
A couple claimed to have seen it, but there was no way they ever did. They had stopped in a portion of that trek, but not the portion they could have seen the Maco Lights.
Okay.
So one indication was one president said he saw it. Another one was reported to have seen it, but it's pretty impossible that either one ever did. But it's nice folklore. Time in Life magazine actually posted that they did, that the presidents did, which fueled that part of the legend. I would say, though, to your question about the experience,
what it is.
first of all,
What do you think it is?
I really do believe that there is some kind of residual energy out there.
Okay.
Or was. And because Charles Joseph Baldwin was responsible for that train, responsible for the people on board, his crew that were injured, he, I believe, went out swinging the light not to look for his head, but to warn people. And once those tracks were pulled up, there was no longer a need to warn people.
Wow.
They were gone. The trellis was gone. There was no chance of an accident happening there that he had to warn people for. So that residual energy could just dissipate.
I felt it when you said that because it just made so much sense.
It
That's
does
why it
to
went
me.
away. Wow.
Yeah.
The reason I asked about Mount Misery Road, that's a
Yeah.
whole nother story.
Oh boy, it is.
Right? And
Oh,
I'm just
yes.
curious if that energy is all happening in a very confined,
Yes.
area, because there's a whole, about the slaves that were
Oh, my
being
goodness.
marched to Fayetteville or to catch the train to go to Fayetteville.
That's right.
We'll have to look at a map and see how it all
That
works.
is what a strong residual energy that must be
Yeah.
of hundreds of enslaved people who are being marched along that space.
Don't give it away because there's a
No,
whole
no.
another episode.
I'll let you do that episode. It's a great story, though.
Well, Holly, I want to thank you so much
It was a
for
pleasure.
shooting us straight. Thank you, Holly.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
taking the
much.
time. We really, really,
It was a
really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. So there you have it, folks. The story of the Maco Light, the real story of the Maco Light. We now know for sure that old Joe Baldwin, or his spirit, was not out there with a light looking for his head, because he never lost his head, as the legend went. But now we also know that the head injury that he sustained caused him to be lying in a hospital bed for 3 days. I'm sure he was suffering from guilt, suffering from the knowledge that his death was imminent. Did that somehow release something from Joe Baldwin? If there's a place in between now and the afterlife, did he get stuck in there? Was he so overcome with guilt that his spirit was out there warning the passengers of other oncoming trains for decades, seen by hundreds, if not thousands of people? I don't know. We don't know. We just report the facts that we can find and let you decide. Subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and we'll see you next time at Carolina Case Files. Hi gang, Rusty here with Carolina Case Files, and we're talking about equipment tonight. We're going to need specialized equipment to do some of the things that we're going to be recording and bringing to you. We're pretty excited about it. We have got a portable fish finder. Now, what do we need a portable fish finder for? This thing has been sent to us by Deeper. It's a portable fish finder with 3D map generation. What does that mean? That means we can hook this thing on a fishing pole and toss it out in the middle of a lake or stream, or hang it over on the side of our boat. Because of the 3D mapping, it's going to allow us to find structures underneath the water. And you see the telephone right there in that picture? That means you don't need a console on your boat. All you need is an app on your phone. So we are very grateful to Deeper all the way in Lithuania. Shout out to you guys. Thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe to our channel. We're going to bring you the absolute best investigations we possibly can. Have a great day.